it's Chris and
Margie.
And we're uptown here in Union City, and we're going to go up and we're going to watch a ribbon cutting ceremony. So it's a little building that was moved in town to be for bathrooms. So I didn't know it was going to be this windy. So we're going to go ahead and head up that way. So here's the building that was moved. It's an old railroad building that was used by the railroad. I don't know why I'd say that, but yeah, so it's just up here. It was moved just down the street. And what it is we have our music area up here for festivals, and they moved it down here to use as bathrooms. And from what I've been told is that the upstairs is going to be a small train museum. All right, so we should be getting ready for the ceremony here pretty soon. This is our mayor, Chad Spence.
Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everybody to the rail tower ribbon cutting, and I want to thank you so much for joining us on this special occasion on this absolutely beautiful day and this beautiful Memorial Day weekend. Before I start, most of you have an agenda. I would like to, normally would light a candle for something of this magnitude, but given the elements with the wind, we're going to make do with the battery powered. But I would like to ignite this, actually turn on this candle. This is in honor of Pat Livingston. I'll give you a brief story about Pat. Pat's a gentleman that lived in Idaho and found out about what we were doing in trying to save the rail tower because he worked for Penn and New York Penn and spent several years in this area and actually set foot in the tower and working for the rail industry and had a great passion for the rail industry. And Pat and I spent many an evening on the phone talking to each other as we tried to find ways to save this tower and to move it. And he was wonderful. He was absolutely wonderful. He shared a lot of stories. Pat really loved to share stories. And he, in fact, got his rail society to donate $1,000 to our efforts, even living out there in Idaho as he was. And unfortunately, we lost Pat earlier this year. So the candle's in honor of him and everything he meant to me and to this endeavor, and unbeknownst to this community, to the community as well. So we will begin. What an interesting subject this is sitting behind me. The rail tower, there's a lot more to it than the average individual realizes, I believe. And what was really cool, when we went through this process of raising money, the stories started coming out of the woodwork, and the passion that ran deep for a lot of individuals who either had a personal connection to the tower or had family that had a personal connection to the tower. Let me give you some insight. This is from a gentleman who wrote to an Ann Riddle. He says, interesting that they're wanting to preserve the interlocking tower in Union City. I'm surprised that it lasted long enough to be preserved. It's kind of an unusual tower. It was built by the Pennsylvania Railroad in 1929. The Pennsylvania was the railroad that crossed the Big Four at UC, and it was the second of two railroads to reach there in the 1860s, and thus was responsible to build and maintain the interlocking plant that controlled the crossing. Before 1929, apparently the crossing was not controlled by signals. What's odd about the building is that it combines architectural features that were normally used by just one company on their own buildings. For instance, the Pennsylvania towers almost always had the upper story overhanging bay window. The Big Four towers did not have bay windows at all, but they almost always had the pagoda roof. The Pennsylvanias had angular roof lines. It is rather unique. Brick towers were not common on the Big Four Railroad. I suppose that as the senior road, the Big Four helped design the tower while making the Pennsylvania pay for the best. The UC Tower was closed And here it says 72. I have some data, it says 68, but anyway, it's been a while. When some changes were made to the track layout at the crossing, control of the revised interlocking was moved to the tower in Ansonia, Ohio. It was also a big brick tower, only two I know of around the Midwest. After that, the railroad signal maintainers used the tower building until recently. I wonder if the big electric interlocking machine is still on the top floor. It is not now. I was in the tower once when I was about 8 years old. I remember the machine. It was so big, I don't even know how it could have been taken out without destroying the building. They have quite a chore there moving it. It's built on a concrete slab. It may have a steel or wood frame inside the brick walls. It can be done. The Big Four moved the Winchester Railroad Station 2 blocks east around World War I. The Winchester Depot originally stood right in front of it where OMCO built its office building. The Union City Art Center you mentioned was built as the Pennsylvania Railroad Station in Piqua, Ohio. When the Pennsylvania was elevated through Piqua about 1915, the station was taken down in pieces and re-erected in Union City to replace an older frame station that stood a block to the east. So that's just but a glimpse. And again, the stories are numerous, but what was amazing is we were ever so close to this being a pile of rubble. CSX was actually pursuing rail towers throughout the state of Indiana to alleviate the burden on them, and understandably so, because they were no longer in use. But it was not uncommon for Indianapolis, for example, for people to get up one morning and a couple of rail towers would be gone. They would literally be leveled in the evening or into the night. And so there was a fear that this tower, we would wake up one morning and it would not be here. And so the days were imminent in which it was going to be demolished. And so we sought a fundraising campaign, we sought a grassroots effort, but many fundraising campaigns fell by the wayside. Until one day I just had enough, and I reached out to our Lieutenant Governor, Suzanne Crouch, who was phenomenal in this situation. And she told me, she goes, well, I think we've got a grant that's perfect for you guys. It's the Patient Initiative Grant. So it's $50,000. The only catch is you have to raise all $50,000. If you raise $49,999, you don't get a dime. So it's all or nothing. So game on. Well, even before having the official launch of the rail tower fundraising campaign, and I just saw him now standing back to my right, Mr. Bill Corbin, a 1962 alum of Union City, was a tremendous asset in this process. And I recall like yesterday when he and I were on the phone with folks from IEDC from Indianapolis and the preservation for the state, and they were telling us one cold December evening that because of what we were proposing to do was not within historic standards, and so they did not think they would be able to fund it. Now I want to say that again. Preservation was saying that because of what we were proposing to do, they did not think they were going to be able to fund it. I reached out to the Lieutenant Governor, and God bless her, she called. I remember like it was yesterday. I was standing in front of my mother-in-law's house one cold evening, talking to her on the phone. She reached out to me on a Friday evening, and I told her the situation because I left her a dire voicemail. And I said, do they understand, being preservation, that because we're not checking every box the way they want it, it's going to be leveled. We're going to lose the tower. All because we're not preserving it to the way they want to see preserved exactly. And part of that stemmed from having restrooms put in the bottom floor. There were already restrooms in the bottom floor of the tower, but just not these two doors. But to make it accessible for all, we had to have it designed like this. So she went to bat. And thank goodness we got that waived. And then Bill Corbin started what turned out to be an exceptional fundraising campaign in which we raised $57,000 in 60 days, topping our amount needed by more than $7,000. And on July 27th, pure coincidence, on the 27th of 2021, this tower was moved from over there So right behind me. And it was a smashing success. It appeared on Fox in Indianapolis. It appeared on Dayton news stations down in Dayton, Ohio. And it got a lot of acclaim because it showed what a small community was capable of. It's amazing what can be done when folks decide to come together and work together and decide they're going to agree on a common goal. It's actually awesome. And despite a pandemic, despite supply shortages, despite labor challenges, it has taken nearly 2 years to restore this tower to what you see now, and it's not completely done. We still have the second floor to complete, and we still have some little touch-up to do in the men's and women's restrooms. However, tonight, kicking off the concert series for Artisan Crossing, the restrooms are usable and they're ready to go. I want to give a very, very special thanks to John Goodhue and Goodhue's Roofing and Metals. The beautiful roof you see up above is thanks to them. Donation, material and labor. I want to thank Tim Heiss and Montana Lumber, also donation in the restoration of the windows. And I want to thank our city street department crew who did the plumbing and the various other jobs in the building and helping us prepare it for what you see now. But again, the stories were immense. It's a message from Mr. Keith Robbins. He goes, although I'm not a representative of either organization cited in the following, I would like to make my donation in the name of both Miami Valley Rail fans and the Marion Union Station out of Ohio. I've attended events at Union City and the old passenger station and have always been impressed by the warm welcome shown to the attendees by the people of Union City. Good luck in your project to move and save the interlocking tower. Then we've got this amazing picture here that's going to go upstairs in the tower. This was donated by Miss Alicia Conklin, and she wanted to make it known that she's donating this fine picture in the name of Charles Howe, and that also Cecil Warren and Eugene Fosnight worked with him for many years in the tower. And so this was a very, very fond endeavor for her. And I also have I have a story here I want to read that's not directly related to the tower, but it's definitely related to the rail industry. And this is from our own Mr. Bill Baker, who worked for the rail industry. And he wanted to note about the time of 77, the blizzard of 77. At the time of the blizzard in 1977, I was a railroad signal employee working in Dunkirk, Indiana. The day of the blizzard, I had a lot of trouble getting from Dunkirk to Ridgeville, which is just 15 miles, mind you, due to all the snow. At the gas station where I got gas in Ridgeville, the sheriff told me I could not get to Union City by road. I called the railroad dispatcher to see if there was an eastbound train coming through soon so I could hitch a ride. 10 minutes later, the dispatchers had him slow down, not stop, mind you, slow down so Bill could jump on board. Less than 3 miles in Deerfield, the train got stuck in a snowdrift. And Bill was very nice to have this story printed out. This also is going to the top tower. One thing that's not in here that I will add for your benefit is that when Bill shared this story with me, the railroad engineer looked at him when they hit that drift and he said, "We're stuck because I had to slow down to pick you up." So after backing the train up a mile, the engineer was able to make it through. When we were between County Roads 500 East and 600 East, we got stuck again. This time in a 7-foot drift. The engineer, with 4 locomotives, made several attempts to break through. No luck. There happened to be a westbound train coming through Union City. The dispatcher had him to leave his train in Union City and drive his 4 locomotives to help us out. After several attempts, 8 locomotives, 8, were still unable to break through. The decision was made to cut the 8 locomotives from the train. The crews and myself returned to Union City. I left at Dunkirk, Indiana at 4 p.m. that day, arriving at home in Union City at 1 a.m. My wife, Valerie, who I had the dispatcher call when I left Ridgeville, was more than glad to see me, and that statement is very understated. So, thank you for that story. So once again, the stories were immense. The thanks go to so many, and I do have one special recognition I want to pay tribute to at this point. Thanks to Mr. Baker. We have a Mr. Mike Worrell, and I believe you had a dad and a father or an uncle who worked in the rail tower. Is that correct? That'd be right. Okay, and you also, correct? All right. Well, Mike, and this is no undue respect to anybody else here that may have set foot in the tower, but again, as the stories came to me, I've tried to make the best I can with everything that's presented to me. Mike, for your countless hours of watchful eye from the Union City Rail Tower, ensuring the safety of countless citizens and visitors, I want to thank you for your service. Now, just to give you a quick perspective, people like Mike and anybody else here who has worked in a rail tower or had family that worked in the interlocking towers, those were the air traffic controllers back in the day. They were the ones that saw to it that people came and went and arrived safely. But not only that the passengers were safe and that the engineer was safe and everybody else on the trains were safe, but also that everybody in the community was safe, especially those surrounding the tracks. And so thank you so much. So somebody give us a count of 3 for the ribbon cutting. Got it.
That was the ribbon cutting. Margie and I are now going to walk down here to where the railroad tower used to be, and then kind of walk the area where they actually transferred it down to this area. It's almost a block down, and we're on this little like alleyway. I think this used to be Railroad, is what the name of this was Railroad. But because of the railroad and because of the city growing, it actually became an alley. But so they weren't able to bring it down this way because they blocked it off down here. So they actually had to take it a block up, or a half a block up that way, right? And then a block down, and then half a block to move it. And you can see, I think you can see it behind me right now. Yeah, it's right there. So right here is where the tower used to sit. You can see the foundation, of course, and everything. And you can see there's their train tracks. And of course, being it's Union City, trains do come through here about what, every half hour? So if you look, I'm going to show you, we're standing right here is where the foundation is. And if you come a little bit over, if you can look down there, you can see the ambulance way on down there. Did I miss it? Or is it on over? Oh, it's on over, yeah. So it's right there. I'm like right next to the tracks. So you can see just on the edge of the, behind the tree, on the edge of the building. That's how far down it was moved. And there's Margie, waiting for me to come back. When they moved it, they actually were moving it, I believe they brought it out here, which is part of that road that doesn't exist anymore. What's that? I think maybe they took it out down there. Yeah, because I seen what they brought it. See, I actually seen them move it, except for I was working and I really wanted to record it and I wasn't able to. So I think they took it out. Either they took it out through this way or they took it out towards, and I don't think they took it out towards that way. I think they must have took it out down here where you see the little break in the cement. They brought it all the way down this street, and as you can see, it sits right there now. Right up there is where they have all the music festivals. Now, Margie and I haven't really gone to any of the music festivals here in town, but they're supposed to start. It kicks off today, didn't you say?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but it was really interesting. From my way I understand, you said it wasn't finished. They got the bathrooms in the bottom, and from what I understand, isn't the top supposed to be like a small railroad museum? From what
eventually, it's not done.
Yeah. Well, he was talking about the stuff they were going to put in there.
Yeah, but I mean, it's going to be a while, I think.
So that's going to do it for, I don't know, the ribbon cutting, our first ribbon cutting. So, but yeah, it's for this building, and I think it was pretty cool. What did you think, Margie?
Yeah, interesting.
So, but thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys catch us on our next adventure, and we'll see you later. I hope you all have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.